So thank you everybody for showing up to this Legal Shield Field Notes webinar that we do. This is Monday. This is our networking, let's say, focused. However, if you're from group and you're just poking around, uh, there's no problem when it comes to probably learning, now that you guys are being moved to be more or pushed to be more full service, there's probably good things you guys can learn in both sessions, but we'll try to focus as much as we can on networking for that. Let me see if I got any other messages. I think I did. Gonna let me. And that came from, oh, Ken. I didn't see that he's, do we have a Ken? Bear with me one second just to take a look at, oh no, this is Bob. All righty. Okay, so how is everybody doing?
Just dandy.
Amen. I'm glad that you were able to do what you needed to do and
No, I didn't.
and then get here. Well, I would have definitely, most likely enjoyed the time. And well, if you made it, you made it. But remember, all of these are recorded and posted on Zoom. So if you don't have that all before the end of the session, post the Zoom link for everybody so that you guys can look at our past videos. What did we talk about last week? I think last week I just kind of rambled about how you guys, if you haven't been thinking about using AI, there is so many tools when it comes to, just creating, whether if it's content, whether if it's graphics, you know what I mean? So many tools out there. And I guess we kind of discussed, I'm reluctant to show a lot of stuff just because they're all third-party programs that, not that we don't get any benefit from, but, want to kind of be treading nicely with that. And so, but if you guys had questions and you set up a meeting, most likely I'll spill the beans and there I can show you without having to have it recorded, plastered all over the interwebs. But that's what we spoke before. I know it's fourth quarter for everybody. And so what are you guys doing in this time? Are you guys, for the networking, are you just still pitching like nothing and, just trying to drag in new business? Or is there other duties or is there other things in which you guys have to like deal with?
The majority of us, I think, are working on the accounts we already have. I don't know that there's a lot of bandwidth for doing a lot of prospecting right now. I certainly am doing a little bit of it, but
When
mainly servicing the groups and the enrollments that I've got lined up and benefit fairs and all that stuff.
So what does that entail? Action plans, templated messages, creating messages, or, texting?
Yeah, once you know that something's set up, then you can certainly set up an action plan. I don't have that many groups that it's probably worth my time to do that, but you could set up an action plan to make sure that you remember to do something or to send them a reminder X days before
For like open enrollment or
benefit fair or whatever it happens to
benefit
be.
fair? Okay. And then so would you guys like to look at something along those lines or just to maybe kind of understand maybe some of your challenges that you guys are going through at the moment to maybe see how I can either whether discuss it with you in an open forum, possibly maybe show you something if I can, but just curious to kind of see what are the things that you guys are working on more at the moment that is pressing that you guys might find yourselves having challenges. That's the Janet. Feel free.
Well, hello, everyone.
Hello.
Things you were talking with, and as Bob was talking about, I'm kind of like, well, I have a day job at the community college, so I'm looking at really how to prioritize my time and make an appointment with myself with my duty or task, whether
Uh-huh.
it's doing CRM, getting on Zoom with you guys. So I've got to do a better job with focusing with that and kind of like putting myself in the place of the customer or client's position and seeing things from their perspective. So whatever texts or emails or what I'm preparing, does it grab them? Is it so it won't seem like it's all about me, but I'm really there to help them solve that problem. So I'm just taking another look how I can do things better with my technology and grasp it and master it better and really be present. As I'm kind of feeling I'm going through so many things and trying to prepare myself. I'm not making any headway. So I'm stopping some things and reevaluating
Okay.
and saying what's the better outcome and see my results. So yes, like for instance, I had a question last session and I forgot to email you. What is the AI part of Fieldnotes Like everything is AI now, marketing, this, that, and the other. What's the AI part for the field notes so I can understand how to grasp to use this to my benefit?
So Fieldnotes, on top of having the Fieldnotes.ai, right? Fieldnotes is a software company which developed a CRM for the real estate realm, right? For that space, real estate. What I know, Keck's mother worked in real estate. And ever since he could imagine, she always had struggles with following up with people. Like he identified all the struggles that a real estate agent would go through because that was his mom. So that's where I think all of the notion of creating the CRM kind of came about. And so they utilize the AI to outreach, to act as an assistant to the real estate agent. So the real estate agent doesn't want to make outreach, outbound calls, right? Well, our AI will do that for. It'll send out essentially emails and text messages, right? You guys can simulate that through action plans, but our other service for the real estate agents will actually do that on their behalf, right? So they like that because not only does it follow up with their leads, does it outreach and do their outbound, but when somebody reaches out to their assistant to then speak to the realtor, we bundle that all together and hand it off to the agent. So the agent now has a handoff, right? So we kind of try to help them through the qualifying, try to, pick up the small questions like, what areas do you work in? AI can answer all of those preliminary things, right? So that's that's where AI is heavily used. However, it does come at a cost, right? And being real estate, if you can get a couple of deals out of that through AI, it'll definitely pay itself, right? But it's at a different price point. So the way LegalShield kind of came about was I don't know if it was Jackie Johnson specifically, the point person who then met with Keck and said, hey, can we do something for LegalShield? Because I can see, because she's also dual, I don't want to say dual citizenship, but she's dual, works a little bit of real estate, also does LegalShield. So she saw the application, how it could be utilized for LegalShield. So then they decided to create the separate vertical. And to what I know, you guys have the best deal, right? When it comes to encompassing the majority of our services, minus that AI outreach and that kind of stuff, because that really does have an additional cost per se, And so so you guys have what is almost to like a close to a 50% discount to what the bare bones real estate CRM would be. So you guys get something that not everybody gets, which is Sparky, right? Which is an AI assistant, which you can message Sparky, hey, can you put in a reminder to follow up with, and you can give the name, and then with our AI, we'll go through your system, find that contact, and set up that appointment, right? If you just met with somebody and you're on your phone, and so right when you get done meeting the person, you could voice to text message to Sparky and send him a text, and you could say, hey, I just met with this person's full name. She lives at this address. This is her phone number. This is, you could date all the information that you captured, and you can just type it or voice it and then send it to him. He will enter that into your system. You could even say, just met with somebody, all the details. By the way, set up a follow-up appointment 15 days, from 15 days from now. It'll do exactly that. So that's AI. There's also a feature within the CRM that is a beta feature, and that I will show you. Let me just get out of this account that I'm in and go to share. Okay. So when you pull up a contact and you would like to utilize AI, there is this little beta version that we have here. And then there's these options: send introductory email, generate a follow-up email, reach out to a cold lead, and generate a referral email. If you go to your settings and you fulfill this basic profile bio, where is it? My AI profile. You're given to where you can enter in your location. You can put in services provided, and you can put in, I think I think it's like 150 characters or like 100 or 70 characters. I'm not sure how much room it's in there, but you can definitely put in, I think, a paragraph or so about yourself. It'll take all of this information and it will utilize in building out these emails, right? But if you just basically click create an introductory, it'll do exactly that. And so now you have this email, right? So obviously it went ahead and referenced the company that I selected. It's using my test account's name. Let's see what else. I would say a half decent outreach, right? Introductory email. Now, if you like this email, you could go to select a template and save it as a template, right? And then you can put it into your library. And now you'll have something that was generated in AI. And if you went and cleaned it up and did it differently, you can then save that template and organize it within your folders and then now use it for later. So this is AI, right? This is not like a pre-canned response. This is generated through AI. It has its own prompts, so most likely this will produce similar every time. However, depending on what you have here, whether your location and services you provide and things like that, it will feed in to those responses. So then it will be a little bit different, right? So that is AI. Sparky is AI. And I'm going to have to say that is about as much AI that we have at the moment, right? So yeah, so with the real estate agents, yes, you could have what we call a net, the assistant, and you could put in a bunch of leads and you could take to a certain extent how she reaches out, whether if it's a buyer, whether if it's a seller, or if it's a probate lead, there's different approaches. So in that real estate realm, there is a handful of different protocols that the AI can use, but the AI still thinks on its own. So if it thought that this was a seller, it would most likely, if somebody says, no, I'm not looking to sell my home, I'm looking to buy, then it would understand that and then switch the topic, right? So that's the unique thing. It would be best to obviously know prior so that it can kind of hit on target, but it's throwing a snowball, it tries to, or a curveball, it tries to, juck and jive to as much as it can. So if you're, questioning what is the AI really, it's these things here and Sparky, right?
Okay.
And so, but you did say something that kind of resonated with me. Over the weekend, I saw a YouTube video of a gentleman giving his expert advice and giving a templated email to approach, like an introductory email. And so he, great email, right? Love the way that he set it up and everything. However, my response to him was, every time I get an email like that, either whether on behalf of the company or for even to me directly, I just delete them because I'm not looking for anything. You know what I mean? I'm not actively out there looking. And then I would not reply to an email that just came out of nowhere. I wouldn't reply to it. You know what I mean? Now, may I do some due diligence about the company, but never have. My experience with those is a lot of phishing scams, a lot of, I would just say, scam and phishing for information, right? So I don't participate. If I felt that I needed an additional service, whether it might be, let's say, debt collection or web developing or marketing and things like that, I would do my own Google research. You know what I mean? Try to find out the best company, best 5 stars, you know what I mean? Kind of start that route instead of just going to all my spam emails that I have in my computer and start to dig those up and start replying back to people, that I wouldn't ever do. So my reply to him is I delete all those. I delete them all. And there's not one that I've ever answered back, or even thought answer this guy. And so is it a great email? Yeah. But do I think any professional is going to look at it and be like, oh, And then so what I was saying was I would just do things different, right? Such as use an 8x8. Because if what you're trying to do is to gain the confidence of a higher up, there's this term called headhunting, right? And that you got to look at the profile of the guy. You got to find his social medias. You got to see where he's at. You got to do something to find this guy outside of just his email that everybody could have. You know what I mean? That's my approach. Just because I used to do conference sales for a company similar to like Sherm.
Mm.
So they had a thick database of CEOs and just top top tier people in companies, Fortune 500 companies, small, big, but they just had just spot on data, right? And um, and so it was extremely difficult to get into those CEOs, right? For them to like resonate with you and to take your call. I mean, far and a few. But I would go in LinkedIn. I would send them a message through LinkedIn, reaching out to them. I would send an email. I would phone call. I would state that, hey, by the way, I reached out through you through LinkedIn, just wanted to, blah, blah, blah. And then emails, voice messages. I would try all means necessary, right? But I just wouldn't hope and pray off of just one email. These guys were going to follow up with me and come back to me. So I found people because I would social media stalk them in some cases that then they would see and then they would, backtrack and then look at the company that I'm part of and say, oh, okay, well, this is a legit company and this person is reaching out to me. And so, and I would find that based on all of that other extra stuff, they were coming back to me. But if I didn't do any of it, nobody would answer my emails. They would just be seen and forgotten and so that's something that I have seen. A good email intro is great, but there's nothing like calling people. There's nothing like, if you're sourcing companies that are locally, there's nothing like showing up, maybe trying to request a meeting, maybe either live, trying to put yourself in front of the company. That I think that might be a better approach than just assuming them to pick up your phone call and then for the gatekeeper to be like, oh, well, let me just give you, let me just send you to the owner right now. I've had many, many people call me and say, want to speak to the owner. I'm like, what's his name? And they don't know his name. And it's like, well, guess what? I'm not transferring you. And I've gotten like little scuffles because they're like, you should. And I was like, what's this about? And they don't even want to tell me. So it's like, if you don't want to even have any type of, you don't want to tell me what it is, because if it is something in which I would think that my boss would need it, then definitely I would send it over. I wouldn't have any problem. But if what you're trying to do is just say your pitch to my boss, he doesn't have time for that. You know what I'm saying? So not talking to him. But and so with that said, I think maybe an email ain't going to do it. Right. And to him, that was his suggestion. It was something quick. I could understand the content is to, be quick, one little lesson, but, you know, I didn't. And then what was funny is two people from whatever that group was like, well, if that doesn't work, then what do you know what I mean? Then they challenged me and I was like, you got 15 minutes? Send me a DM because I know exactly in my mind how I would just do it different and not just, go off of an email. I would definitely try to do an 8x8. And if I can't get them in an 8x8, at least that person would say, okay, this person spent 2 months trying to speak to me, right? Maybe there might be something there, right? So, but if people feel that just a magic email is going to come in and then it's going to start wowing people, and then for what you guys want to do sometimes is like get in, you want to infiltrate, you want to use the Trojan horse to kind of get in with something. And then you want to start looking around and see and hear all the pain points and be like, oh, well, you could use this, you could use that. These are, I have a handful of people that are not just CRM or not just CRM, but are not just LegalShield that, they do insurance, they do, there's other services that they have in their toolbox in which if it's not LegalShield and that they're good with that, well, there's a handful of other services that they have available and that companies need. It's just a matter of just starting that conversation and being able to, speak to the appropriate person and see if anything resonates. And so, but yeah, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
I just want to say I got something from that, especially if I got a referral and making sure that the approach and tone, they know that I'm talking to them and not just pick the name out of the space of random, but really there's a reason for me to call or connect. And I want to, and get that enticement and engagement so they will respond back. So I was just thinking about, as you were saying about that other person's approach, how I make it, seeing it through the eyes of the customer, what you just said. It may not get them, may not. But so going back to the chalkboard, making sure my templates and emails, it is going to be direct marketing directly to that person and not to sound I'm speaking into the ethos of everyone. Maybe I'll catch you in my net. And with that said, that when you asked me what I want to do, I want to use more. with LegalShield, the blog posts, I was looking at them this morning. How could I use third-party information that we already have? I don't have to create it. So that's one of the things I want to use with the CRM and sharing with people. And if think a person has a certain need, let that article or that video speak to that need. And I had two questions. How did Edward get that background for Legal Shield? I would like to use that at my Zoom. And the question to you, Jeremy, would be: do we have a bounce back rate? Like we send emails. Do we have anything that says it's a non-working email or they're not accepting it? Do we have anything to monitor bounce back?
Yeah, well, not monitor. Well, yes, you.
Well,
You will be the one to monitor the bounce back. What happens is you send. So this recently happened to me with a gentleman. He reached out to me and says, "I just recently added this new individual, and I'm getting this. This email is blocked from the server." That was the message, and I was like, "What?" Now, when I was looking at the name, it was a non-conventional spelling of this person's name. So if I was a gambling man, I would probably say it's the email. But I wanted to kind of figure out, go a little deeper and see what's going on. So we ran a couple of tests, and the conclusion was yes, it was the email, right? Because we did test with the correct spelling, and we did not get any message of any bounce back. When I did a Google search on this individual and started looking up company directories and things like that, this person came back with the correct spelling. So I was now even more on the leaning side that this was just an incorrect email. But the way that he stated is that it came from corporate. So I'm not sure where in the steps that got, it got inputted incorrectly. However, he stated there's the possibility that it could have been entered incorrectly and then it's passed off to me and then I put it in and blah, blah, blah. So that can happen. So what he did is he just got an email in his inbox in the email, not from Fieldnotes or anything like that. It's going to come from, if you're using Microsoft, it's going to come from Microsoft. If you're using Google, it's going to come from Google. You will get that email saying not deliverable. Emails is full. The inbox is full. There's a handful of messages that it can notify you on. And so you'll get those in your inbox, right?
thank
So
you.
if I could tell you guys a little bit of my story when I first kind of came to you guys, I had the challenge to where I was supposed to keep my business and I was supposed to increase it, right? And this was expected of me ASAP. And there was something then in the beginning that they wanted me to calculate, but has anybody ever heard of churn? What that is? I could not for the life of calculate my churn. That was every time Keck would be like, well, what's your churn for this week or for this month? And I was just like, what do I do? Divide what by the what? And I just couldn't do it. It was totally above me. And I probably would have to focus more on how to calculate it. However, I knew that it had to do with how many people drop, right? And I guess at what velocity that they drop from the service. And so in the beginning, let's say there was, I don't want to say an exodus or anything like that, but there was people leaving, right? And I couldn't explain it. So I was left with the challenge that I had to keep the people that I have, and then I have to gain new people. And I'm not saying that the company doesn't have a budget to market to new LegalShield, but I think they're just focusing on some other things. And this is kind of like my job. So kind of like on me to figure it out. So I'm really not thinking to go to the company, hey, let's do some pay-per-click or let's do some Facebook ads. I didn't even bother. I just said, okay, well, how can I increase? How can I bring more people to the table, but not have this friction, not have to pay for it, not have to do that? And so what did I do? I took care of my base clients, right? Which right now I've got about I got two that I would consider base that I first started out and I laid it on thick. I mean, I'm here, I'm available. Ask me, let's do it. Whatever you need, I'm here, right? Did not say no. The gentleman prior to me was a little bit more, he wasn't opening up any can of worms because, of course, it's more work that he has to do. But I figured if I open up a can of worms, yeah, it's a can of worms. But at the end of the day, if I can help you guys solve a problem, right, and utilize the CRM in a way that is beneficial to you, I'm thinking to myself, well, this is a client forever, right? This is the person that is going to be a power user of the system. And so if they're utilizing the system, I have to assume that they're getting some type of benefit from it. So I figured if I can focus on that, I'm not going to have problems with payment because obviously people need to have access to the tool. So they're going to want to happily pay what they, what they're charged. And those are what I focused on. By me focusing on that, yes, is it a longer approach? Because every time my boss was like, "Where's all the new people, Jeremy? Where's all the new people?" And I'm like, "They're gonna come. They're gonna slowly come." I'm just setting it up. And so now I can see that I am benefiting from taking care of our base client because not only have I turned them into advocates of this program, they now go out and they spread joy of why they use a CRM and how it benefits them. But because they have true tangible things that I've helped them achieve and to do. And so that's been my approach, right? And I haven't been spending any money on marketing. I don't spend any money on ads. I haven't bothered the company to do any of that. However, I just last week had like 6 new people that were introduced to me to discuss the CRM. And then in the past 3 months, 6 came out of straight referrals. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean? That's kind of like where I'm at. And I think that if I kind of just stay on my beaten path, service you guys are going to, whenever the topic comes up about a CRM, you're only going to talk about what you know. And so I'm pretty confident that you would most likely throw me in that conversation. And if you did, hey, I'm here for whoever that wants to utilize the CRM. And so it's a slow process, but I do feel that if you can turn your people into advocates, if they will then referral, people to you, and it's just a matter of building that out. So that's not 100% what I'm saying to depend on, but that's something that you guys can, whoever businesses that you're working with or any people that you have, start with trying to turn those people into advocates, because then they're going to go out and when they hear people, needing a lawyer and in a similar situation, and they're going to, they're going to throw you under the bus in a good way. And then you can then help bring them into the LegalShield and offer them the products that you have and, pick up the business. So that's something in which I'm doing a little bit more, going out to different groups. I don't know if you guys seen me, but I've friended a bunch of LegalShield kind of Facebook groups, right? And if the right topic is there, I will push a couple of buttons to see if I can, get a response out of people and see if, but I'm just keeping my eyes and ears and just slowly putting myself in that realm to kind of see if I can have conversations. One gentleman came up out of nowhere from a message that I put in Facebook, and he was like, "Who's your upline?" or "Who's this, who's that?" And I said, "Oh, I don't work like that with LegalShield, but what I do is I'm customer service, what is it, a customer success agent for a CRM to a bunch of people who use our CRM. A lot of top producers from LegalShield use our CRM, and so he was interesting. I invited him to our sessions, but I was like, somebody from LegalShield, because he was having a couple of problems. I can hear it just the way that he's talking. He's kind of curious to see, how you doing it. So I was definitely wanting to talk to him and, just trying to get him to engage. God knows what it is that he's not engaging. However, if I can do this a little bit more and pull a couple of prospects out of those places, why not? You know what I mean? And so it's just something you guys got to try to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. But I definitely feel that there's benefit of turning your active people into, doing excellent job with them. Definitely will seed other people to refer you. And if you can find a unique way to kind of instigate that, right? Whether utilizing an action plan to help you kind of stay on top of the service, educate them, onboard them, have consistent follow-up, always be for them so that they feel like, that you're also an extension of this product, that they could tell somebody else, hey, by the way, and you get access to George. George is super helpful with the information, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? They can kind of throw you under the bus in that way. Then I would say you guys are all up for it, wouldn't you guys say? But it's difficult, right? because Renee, the lady that I work with closely in real estate, she said something to me from when I met her years ago, she started to think that the things that I was teaching her were things that she immediately saw, I'm going to get no benefit from this now, but I will see something later on. So what she did is she learned it as a learning curve. And what was really kind of unique with her is that it took me a month and a half to show her that it works. And it worked twice. It brought 2 deals to her. Within 3 months, they closed. So she was happy to see, but she said that this is something in which I'm going to be building for my year to come. And this year, so last year she did 15. She doubled in transactions for this year. She's on target to hit 30 plus transactions. And this was all from the little things that I showed her how to use her CRM. So will it take time? Yes. How long? I don't think that long to get immediate gratification. And then, you know what I mean? And then you've laid down a foundation, and then you have a system. So now it's how many people can you put into the system? How many people can you outreach? You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And then that should increase sales and, add to the bottom line. I don't know. Does anybody have anything to say in regards to my logic? I don't definitely, please fact check me. I don't want to BS anybody, nor do I intend to. But if I'm off, definitely let me know. I will take the silence as confirmation. So, but yeah, you know what I mean? That's what I would say in regards to a little bit of what I've been kind of getting myself into and seeing what other people's problems are. But it's not a I see the AI and all these different tools not as something to like do my job for me, but to help me do my job, right? Because you still need to be the driving factor. If you expect that other tools and services are just going to magically bring it in and you just have to sit back, that's not going to happen. I'd get a good goal kind of set up, kind of map that out. Whether if you guys have seen Miriam's little graph, but it is one hell of a graph. It is in Canadian prices, but it definitely puts things in perspective. And what I like about this is 456 per year to have access. So Miriam, if I bring in 456 flat and don't do anything for next year, and let's just say my retention is 100%, so the same people are on board, this is the same amount of income for next year. Am I correct?
No,
Absolutely not.
no,
So
definitely.
explain that to me.
We get basically a percentage moving forward after month 12. So it's, I don't even know what the percentage is. They've told me, don't even worry about it. It's just there. So it's almost you wouldn't have to do 456, but you would still have to maintain most of that in order to keep going because your residual income is a lot less.
Okay, so the first is the lump sum, and then let's say it's a proportion, the percentage after that.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah,
close to
it's
50,
20% the first year and 10% every year thereafter.
Ah,
Thank you, Estella. I didn't know what the numbers were anymore. And these are all changing yet again because of all the changes we've got going on. So, but it's at least, something that I can work with that just gives me an idea where I am and what I really need to do.
Well, or the direction in which you want to take. If what we're trying to achieve is obviously some consistency of income, right? This definitely puts it into perspective because this tells you what you kind of need to generate monthly. So that's good that you said that because I had this as this is every year was getting the same amount from. So that causes you to consistently have to bring on new business, right?
Right.
So now there's even more of a fire lit under, you know what I'm saying? Because in my head, if this is what you need to make this kind of income, then just imagine yourself giving yourself like a 5-year kind of to achieve this goal. Oh, that it really could take you like about a year to ramp up a really good system and process. And then now it's just find as many people as you can so that you can put them through your process, right? You can educate them. You can go through all the things that it takes to kind of win a customer over. And then hopefully, because you have a CRM, you can calculate how long from when I meet somebody, on average, does it take for me to close them? Is that 3 months? Is that 6 months? Because if you start out 6 months, well, then let's say if you're tracking it and then in a year or two, you're down to 3 months, I would say that's progress. You know what I'm saying? And then if you really fine tune it and start to like, really focus on the processes that you have and how can you do it a lot sooner, then you could be taking almost 20 days to kind of get a yes out of a person or a no. And then if it's a no, okay, let me just put you on the nurture bucket and then I'll just follow up with you, X amount of times throughout the year, which can be managed through an action plan or some type of drip campaign. And now you've got means to skin the cat. You know what I mean? And as long as you can better your numbers and shorten that time in which it takes for you to capture somebody and then pitch them and then get them aboard, get them to say a yes, that should help you achieve these types of goals that you have. But love the way that it's just put in front of you, right? So that you kind of know where to target yourself. I like these ones, which, with the small business, it's a less number about a month, but since it's a different dollar amount, does that make things that much more difficult? Who knows?
It's more challenging. It depends on where you're focusing, but it is more challenging because, I don't know. That's just kind of where my brain is at the moment is the small business plans are more challenging. I sell a lot more or I enroll people a lot more with the home business rider attached to it, which we still have that. We, in Canada, we don't have the HBA. So so
what are the challenges that you feel that are harder to sell these bundles than comparing the other stuff? Is it just the price point?
No, Canadians are funny. They don't need any help, blah, blah, blah. It's the old adage of or you hear a lot. Well, my cousin's a lawyer and he can help me with everything, and it doesn't matter what else sometimes we say. It's kind of like, yeah, no, because they don't want to spend the money. So it's a matter of finding the people that want to spend the money, that really feel and can see that they have a need to just do things more simply.
So in regards to that, so I saw this, like this other video, I think it was a podcast, and I think I saw it at a YouTube, and it was these real estate agents kind of going back. But what I didn't understand through the videos, were you guys role playing, and that's what I didn't understand, because they were having like these conversations, and what I felt that, and through their role playing, if that's what they were doing, that the rebuttal that they were giving were to people that were like, so they're speaking to somebody who wants to work with them and to buy a home, but they're talking about interest rates and they want to wait until the interest rates goes down. And their rebuttals were all about why they should just be doing the math now. And if it works and it makes sense now, just do it now. And I'm like, are they saying that because they just want to get the deal in, and because they've got the person in there, they're positive, they're talking about it. Let's say they have the money to do it, but they just maybe want to get a better price point or wait for the interest rates to go down so that it's obviously easier on the wallet instead of just doing it now. And so I totally understand, but are they just trying to push the person to do a sale? Is that what they're trying to do? Or is there really some good information for holding out, right? And so that was what I didn't really understand. But the way that I saw it was, if you're having that kind of a conversation with somebody, I wouldn't be trying to they've already expressed their pain, right? So why not ingest it? And then now that you know the pain points, why not drip on him information that states your position through articles? Let's say Forbes came out with an article that backed your ideology, right? I would say, hey, just came across this article. Remember when we spoke about this and this? I think this would, shed some light. Perfect. Let them read it. What if that persuades them more than you, right? But at the end of the day, if it does, move them to be like, you know what? No, he's got a point. Who are they going to call? They're not going to pick up the yellow pages and start looking for an agent. They're already talking to you. You know what I mean? And you were the one that kind of come to that conclusion prior. So I would say that you're demonstrating your knowledge in the field. You know what I'm saying? So I would assume that should gain some type of trust. And if that's how you sell to people, right? Gaining their trust, becoming their friends and, showing that kind of initiative, then I think it's just going to fall. You know what I mean? You don't even have to like sell that guy. That guy's going to call you and be like, all right, let's do it. Go find me the houses. Let's take a look. Let's get out there and get the job done. Opposed to you trying to push somebody's logic to think just like you. And all you're really kind of saying is, no, now is the time. Now is the time. Now is the time. You know what I mean? And everything with real estate, that's so unpredictable. You know what I'm saying? And especially now in these times, right? We're voting, everything, everything's kind of, I don't want to say things are in limbo, but definitely people are, they want to kind of see how things play out in the next couple of months before they really kind of make any haste decisions. And so I was more like, do you, instead of trying to convince people to do whatever you're trying to do and right, kind of maybe go against the grain, do you have something set into place to where you have that person got the follow-up dialed in so that the second something comes across your table in which you can then persuade him with maybe a blog article or some type of video that somebody produced talking about the subject and say, hey, just wanted to get this in front of you. Do you have, I would say that that's more important to have set up because you just had a great conversation with somebody, which they didn't hang the phone up on. They didn't call you a liar. They didn't say that you're full of BS. They just don't see it the way you see it. So why not educate them? You know what I mean? And so that's what I was thinking along the lines is instead of having that kind of conversation, trying to get them to do something, why not just actively listen, sit back, make notes, really kind of understand the pain. You know what I mean? Just wrench on it. Just let him, you can get a tear out of his eye on that phone. Oh, you just make notes, made him cry. You know what I'm saying? So that's a deep if you can sell off of emotions, you'll find people just give it to me. Credit cards flying right out of the wallet. You know what I mean? But because you're going off of emotion, you're not trying to force them to think of something. And sometimes that's the difficult part. But if you're able to find people with good numbers, good emails, it's that person, that they have a business, that it might be something for them. Well, now it's just a matter of time. Let time and let life take its toll because life will, everybody in the Chinese calendar isn't there like a series and like there's, or is that genealogy or numberology or something like that? But everybody goes through their 6 months of hell and it happens like every like 5 years or something like that for people. I don't know but so who knows? You know what I mean? That's when most likely they're going to need a lawyer. And so all we have to do is just be there, do the drip, every once in a while, set up some type of follow-up, have some type of 33 touch program or 12 touch program or something along those lines so that when something bad happens, oh, that one lady from LegalShield, let me call her, let me ask her what should she suggest. Should I get the small business plan pro? Should I get the plus? What's the best about the essentials? You know what I mean? Like, and if you've got somebody coming back to you wanting to like understand what's the difference, well then now, now you've got something and now it's just like rinse and repeat, right? And so I would be paying attention closely to the things that you do and make note of what's working so that you can then begin to compile those things together and hopefully come up with the best process to outreach these people in a timely manner, right? Have all your outreach set up. Chip's a really good example, right? But I'll tell you that, he kind of came with his vision of how he kind of wants to outreach these people. Now he just needed the system to kind of like allow him to do it. And he uses that as a tool. And he's probably the only person I have seen to manually outreach to 9,000 plus people in a 3-month, 4-month window. That to me was just, he did what? He has an action plan with 10,000 plus people. Well, it was like 9,000 plus people active. Okay. I could see how Google might not like that. You know what I mean? So, but that was just his way of doing it. Now, obviously, through that and the way that Google's kind of getting, I wouldn't recommend that at all. If you probably want to stay within 1,000 messages, 1,000 email messages per day. And in fact, we have something that I think you do get emails, so that when you start to get to 1,000, you're told you've reached, I think it's 20, oh no, it's 50, 70, and then like 100%. Once you've consumed your daily use, I think you get an email stating that. And so if you can avoid that, that would be best. But yeah, so I just think you got to build a process as quickly as you can. It's going to be an ongoing thing. It's gonna grow with you. So don't ever stick yourself into one way. I would be trying all kinds of things, different types of emails, A and B studies, or A and B studies, but based on approach, right? Have an approach that's like this, and then have another one like that. If you have a couple of people that you can try to use it on and see what performs better, right? Does social media stalking help? Meaning you find the person and then you begin to befriend that person through different social medias. That way you can either show up on their feed. Now, if that's the case, then now it's a matter of just you posting, things that you go through, different packages, different deals, just kind of take all the blog articles and package those into somehow, regurgitating them into some type of Facebook post and then sending it out. Who knows? Somebody could, have you got, I've seen lawyers do reaction videos to what's really popular right now is a lot of people are accessing body cam footages from just police officers and just taking those scenarios and then just you doing commentary. Some you can kind of see that they're a little maybe AI generated or the AI voice or something like that. But a lot of people will sit there and just observe like that person getting arrested and doing the DUI, putting their, you know what I mean? And all these, it's just, it creates content, right? And and I'm a subject to that. I've sat there and seen all kinds of instigation, not but interviews, interrogations, and cam videos, and they go for like hour and something. And so I've seen a lot of lawyers do reaction videos to that, and they've got their logo at the bottom, and they've got their little law firm number, and they spice up that little video, and they've came up on my feed, and I'm just like, all right, I see it. I just have no use for a lawyer, right? So what could I say to you guys? That's where you're a LegalShield associate, or what are you guys calling yourselves now? A licensed agent, I think. Is that the new terminology that I heard that they're trying to use with you guys? Thanks for coming by, George. But yeah,
I
so
haven't heard anything like that. I haven't seen anything different other than independent LegalShield Associate. So
I don't know. I think I saw that somewhere on the Facebook that they were changing the term for how they call you guys. I don't know.
That's for people that are insurance agents that we're recruiting.
Oh, okay.
That's not for the general Legal Shield's independent associates.
Gotcha.
I have a question.
Sure.
I've seen or heard on some of our small business training, they call them full service associate, full service agent, and they weren't at the time talking about insurance, but I have heard that term before.
Okay.
Not sure how to use it in context, but I have seen it somewhere.
Well, I mean, if you consider yourself a full service agent to all the products, right? Whether if it's group, whether if it's individual, CDLP, I don't know if that's what it's referring to, but
I'm thinking.
But yeah. So I don't know if you guys have any questions, possibly maybe I would love to know if I'm in the woods or not with my assessment, but like if it was me, that's possibly what I would do well, if it was me, I would, definitely use the CRM. I would set up my categories, have that, done, think of my templates, think of my action plans, spend a little time of just planning those out so that I could use them for prospecting. I would most likely utilize some type of 8x8 to outreach to these people to kind of step, not come off like all the other people that are just trying to outreach people through email. I would try to touch them in many different ways via text messaging, phone calls, whether if it was social media stalking, if I had the budget to possibly maybe send them something to the office I would definitely think about it. Me being abroad, I would have to think of something remote, you know what I mean? But or work in conjunction with, let's say, an old LegalShield associate that maybe has the challenge of using systems, right? Maybe I would get with him so I'd have boots on the ground, yet I could manage all the technical stuff that the person couldn't do and possibly maybe have some type of split of some sort, right? Those are the things that I would consider, but that's just because I have a little bit of this kind of knowledge, and I've had the chance to learn from, all of the first users, right? So Cassie, Kathy, Bob, George, a lot of these people kind of slapped me into place. I was all over the place when it came to, how to best help you guys, but now I think I'm kind of a little bit polished in that sense, and now I can hear your pain points when it comes to what we need help with and that kind of stuff. And so I feel that I can assess you guys as, I can kind of listen to you 15 minutes, kind of express your challenges, and then I'm just like, all right, we can get it done. And so maybe that just comes with my confidence and having the chance to work with people like Cassie and Bob and those types of people that help me know the program and know the system. And so if you're finding yourself with that challenge, definitely bring it to me, and I'll do my best to kind of help you come up with whatever it is that you feel that you're kind of lacking in. And if you put in the hard work, it's going to pay off. I've seen it with everybody. I've had everybody push back. No, but it's too difficult. But then it's like I push them, and then they all of a sudden it just clicks. Like I had this one gentleman out of San Francisco, LegalShield. We tried all kinds of stuff. We tried just taking all the leads that he pays for. So he gets about like 150 leads monthly. So we tried to take those and just process those with emails and text messaging and phone calling. It did absolutely nothing for him. Like no responses, nothing, nobody calling back, just nothing. Then we started to switch it up, and I was like, all right, so this is not doing anything. What else can we do? That's when we downloaded a bunch of, he had this cam card thing, which I don't know if it was a thing that you can take pictures of business cards and then they input it in. So he had like 1,000 names just in that alone. So I was like, well, get those names over here. And so we got those in, and then we broke up his whole database based off of area codes in San Francisco and in California. So we have all of the area codes. We basically searched out the map in Google to give us all the area codes and a specific location, and then I took all of those and I searched each and every one, and we gave them all a specific sphere, and it was about 400 and something people. But now what we do is we invite people to all of these events that he's going and participating in. So it took us about 2 months, but after 2 months of doing it, not only did we see so much as to what's the best, like we fell on our faces a couple of times, sending everybody a bunch of emails, sending everybody a bunch of text. So now we've got a bunch of learning points that kind of came out of it. So all of those mistakes we won't repeat. Well, he won't, and I won't, right? Because I kind of lived it with him. But it took us about 2 months in which one of the people that he invited showed up to the event and signed on. So it works. But if we're promoting this in a list of about 400, 350 people, and it took 2 months for one person to show up, I would just say we need more people, right? We need to find more people, more potential candidates to get into that email list, because do people go to those events? Yes. That was the way that was built, right? And I would consider him a low-hanging fruit, because he just saw the communication, read it, showed up, and I think he reached out to him and even confirmed. So the guy did call him, spoke to him about it. Obviously, he said, yep, everything is still going on. You're welcome to show up. He did keep his word. He did show up. And then there we are. So now it's just rinse and repeat. And how many more people can we get into that database so that we can then, have a better possibility of more people showing up And I'm positive if they get into one of those meetings, whether if it's one of those Zoom meetings or whether if it's one of those, and that's something that I have not seen you guys use often, is all of these digital places these people can sign up to and go, and you can say, hey, there's this little Zoom meeting going on. I've got it's got limited seats. I got two seats. You're welcome to come, but you just have to, let me know so I can get your name on the list. Something like that. Make it, pitch it to where it looks like there's limited seating and that you can get them in, right? Because then that's going to kind of put you in a good position with them, right? And so just really depends on how you play it out, I would say, But I'm definitely here to think outside the box and to try to help you guys make this make sense. So definitely, please, if you guys had any questions, if you guys have any topics that you would like to bring up for these webinars, shoot me a text message, whatever you'd like. I am definitely here and willing to, kick the can. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I think I've said, well, I could go for hours talking, but I know you guys got things to do. So, but yeah, if there's nothing else that I can help you guys with, it was definitely a pleasure. And I would love to see you guys this Thursday.
Thank you, Jeremy. You gave us a couple of ideas, at least me a couple of ideas that
Nice.
Yes.
Okay,
And-
good.
And still working on this drip campaign thing idea that you've got. It's life gets in the way. So but
do your
it's
best.
really a good idea. And I think too, we get this bits and pieces of information about Forbes and stuff like that. I think for me, I want to go back and find the original that got posted on the Forbes website instead of what we pull, because there's too much other stuff in there. So it's like, but I do understand what you're saying. So
There's go ahead.
It's always a really good idea to stop and think about, and that's how I feel about the people I'm talking to when they give me a really hard no.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Stella. When they give me a hard no, I've had a lady give me a hard no. She told me she would rather pay the money to her law firm that she has rather than even subsidizing little bits of it into an easier, more economical way. So I was like, okay, but I'm going to just pop into her office one of these days and say, hey, just stopping by, and maybe, I don't know, Christmas is coming, take her, you can buy those little things that you can take into people and just
leave a nice little thought. That's an evergreen. That's a beautiful way to go into somebody. But you know what I would possibly say to that person if they said to that, if it was like a straight up hard no and they expressed exactly what they would rather do, I would just say, next time something does come up, do you mind consulting with me? Because it could be that we have something that could help you, right? Like, what if she goes to her lawyer about a specific situation and he says immediately to her, all right, $4,000 retainer, Maybe she's not in a position to do that, right? And maybe your service could possibly offer her the same, but at just a way lower dollar amount in which it's not going to entail that. And so, I would possibly say, well, don't count me out, right? All I really want to do is to help you save money and to do this. And so can I send you an email with all of my information? And do you mind if I just nicely follow up with you every once in a while just to see how you're doing, right? And then so if you lay it like that, like you've pulled off the selling soapbox, right? Like
right.
they can hear when you're going in for the pitch and when you're going for the close. But once people, and that's also called, there's so many tactics within sales, but it's called I do something called the takeaway, which is I'll talk to you about it and I'll let you know. And then if you're like, yeah, but I don't like it, I was like, yeah, you're right. It's probably not good for you. All right, well, you have a great day. And they're like, no, but you know what I'm saying?
I love that.
And then if they hang up on me or they'll be like, yeah, I'll leave them in a daze and confused. And then they'll be coming back to me like, but no, Jeremy, you did say something that was really interesting and it will, yeah, of course. Well, then, you know what I mean? And then it just leaves the fact that takeaway is it just pulls the rug under some people. You know what I mean? And I would rather have somebody really, really think about being with us than do a knee-jerk reaction just to sign up with us, because the reaction to leave the company will be just as quick. So I don't want
Exactly.
anybody thinking that they can just leave and come back. Not that they can't, right? Of course, you're free to do whatever you like, but since it's a yearly agreement, right? It's going to hold you for the year. And so I just really want you to contemplate that it's that kind of thing. And so I do the takeaway. And I don't do it with everybody. You got to kind of know who you do it with, but at some point I'm going to do my fair intention to sell you. If and at that moment you don't give me yes, I'm moving forward, or I love it, maybe next month or in the next couple of months because I've got something, then perfect. I'm going to pull off and I'm not going to give that pressure because people feel that pressure. People do not like that pressure. People will hang up because of that pressure. They will not answer your phone calls because of that pressure. So I will just let them know, you know what? I don't care. I'm just happy to talk to you. So if I can create some type of friendship and I can have an open line of conversation, then I just have to listen to pain. And when I speak to him again and he's having problems that he can't, and it just screams, you need a CRM, then I'll just do a couple of acupuncture points, bing, 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 bing. And then most likely he's going to feel it again and be like, and he's going to sell himself, not me sell him. Right. There was another lady that was working with another real estate agent, well, now working with another legal shield, and and he brought her on for like her data entry. So she's going to learn from him, that kind of thing. But then something happened, life, right? Legal Shield wasn't paying to pay the bills, so it wasn't something that she was going to be able to just kind of continue. So she had to leave. And what I said to her was, hey, listen, I know you got to obviously make ends meet, but do not drop Legal Shield, right? Don't just don't pass it off as, you know, just don't throw it in the trash. Stay with it, right? When you go out and you see somebody and you hear them having problems, lawyer problems, well, guess what? You have a solution for it, right? And it's at that moment that you most likely won't have to sell him. You'll just be like, hey, did you know about this? And they're like, no, I didn't know about it. The price point? Oh my God. Do you know what you can get for it? Oh my God. Right? It's like they're going to probably just take my info. You know what I mean? Here's my credit card. Make it happen. So, that was my advice to her is just not throw away Legal Shield completely, but just keep it as a side gig. You know what I mean? At least you're going to start to learn how you can quickly sell it. Like at least that over time may get better. And then you might say to yourself, oh no, now I know what I'm doing. Now I know what I need to say. Now I know how I'm right. And then it might make sense. And you might say, okay, I'm going to put a little bit more effort now that I've kind of understood what it is to do. And so that's all like a learning curve that people need to kind of experience themselves. Nobody can really kind of say, oh, you're going to have the best experience in the world. That's kind of hard to say or hard to even deliver. But I feel that, if you begin to at least try to put the pieces together, it's going to come at some, and then you've got everything set up. So,
Well, and I think it depends too on where you hang out. I've discovered that, is I've been hanging out sort of looking at the low hanging fruit, and I've got to hang out someplace where it's a little bit higher hanging fruit. So
well,
it's,
low hanging fruit, right? And the reference to that is build your system so people can read your emails, see the things, click the links, and find the product and purchase. That's how everybody should build the system. Then
right.
there's the second layer to it, in which if that fails, okay, now I'm doing follow-up phone calls. Now I'm doing outreach of my own, right? I'm not only not sending just those simple little emails that I have in the action plan, but no, now I'm actually putting things together. If I had a conversation with somebody that expressed, this is my worries or this is what then if I can find an article and I can, tidy it up and send it out to them, and then it also resonates and then it causes them to come back and have a conversation with you. Well, then now you know where to kind of put this person, what kind of product they're looking at. Then you can have maybe an action plan that's just that product or that topic. That way he doesn't feel, well, why is she sending me stuff about CDLP? The hell, you know what I mean? That's not going to give you any credibility. It's going to make like you don't know, like, did you just not listen to my last phone call with me? Like, we didn't even talk about CDLP. And so it's those things that people will then begin to, resonate with. But if you're not on the same page, then they're just going to be like, you lost it. You know what I mean? You're not on track. And some people just don't want to even, like, if I got to explain to you why you're off and you don't even know why you're off, people sometimes don't want to take that extra step. They've got so much stuff in their day. So Now you're not even just getting, now people are ignoring. So that's why I don't like that generic approach. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't, unless you are a well-known company. You know what I mean? If you, and then even if you are a well-known company, I might not even like open up that email because I'd be like, ain't nobody from YouTube emailing me, you know? Ain't nobody from Microsoft personally emailing me about all my success. No, it ain't happening. You know what I mean? So I can smell BS when it is BS. So it's kind of like you got to find a different approach to then get into that person's psyche and be like, no, this is what I'm trying to have that conversation with you, and then see where it leads. But not just with no reasoning. I don't think that that's really going to kind of bring anything back. And so, but yeah, there's some things that I've seen out there. I'm trying to stir up some shit, kind of shake the tree a little bit. That's just my natural, what lives in me is disturb. If you can disturb somebody and kind of like get them off balance, you might be able to then bring them back. And if you can bring them back, then they could respect the fact that you threw them off balance, but you were able to get me back on track. And then I like that. I like you. You're thinking outside the box. And then if anybody can kind of, get on your side any way, shape, or form, it's going to help you sell to them, or at least have a candid conversation. Spill the beans, right? Because it might not be what you want to hear, but it could tell you good information about the current climate, right? And what maybe other businesses are thinking as well, right? And then you use it as a storytelling moment. And you're like, yeah, I just had a conversation with a business. They said the exact same thing. But this is why they came with LegalShield. You know what I mean? And then, you wind them in, you know what I mean? Like, it's just different tactics. But yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. But I definitely thank you guys for
Okay,
showing up.
I think the rest of us need to run too. Otherwise, we could spend all day on here
I
and not
told you. If you guys don't shut me up, I'll just go.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy.
Ciao, ciao, everybody. Bye-bye now.